today's conversation is just looking into something that presents a decent return, especially with the smaller capital requirements of futures, and something that's hopefully not going to pose as much of a risk. Whenever you hear about value investing, Mikey, it's always like, oh, this thing's price is really low relative to its earnings, relative to all of the equipment and all of what the company owns and what it pays its employees and everything else relative to growth. And a great market right now, I think, that shows value investing potential, which is funny because it's a relatively new asset class, is cannabis, is pot stocks, which at the start of the year, everybody thought was a real big growth investment. And it climbed just like you're seeing in cryptocurrencies. But right now, we're on our lows in pot stocks and potentially looking at a value investment, which isn't as cool as growth and buying Dogecoin and everything else right now, but has its own place in your portfolio. I mean, you value invest all the time. Your idea of gold and silver, that's kind of like a value investment in and of itself when it dips.
Yeah. And what's nice about a product like this is it only takes a little bit or a little something for it to generate steam. Like this product has the ability to go to the moon, skyrocket, like you see in the image here in the beginning of Feb 21. So it's not necessarily even a product that you could expect to see just small growth incrementally over time. Like this could just be, like you said, a situation that nobody's really talking about. And then something happens in the next couple of months and maybe you get a big spike and you got in at the lows of the year.
Absolutely. Because, like we said to lead off the segment, in my mind at least, and I know there are different people, there are, contrarians, there are trend followers, there are growth investors, value investors, and everything else. But the best time to buy something that you're decently confident in, and I'm decently confident in the cannabis industry. I don't know if it's going to go as crazy as everyone had thought earlier this year, but I'm pretty confident that it has staying power for the next few years and it'll grow. The best time to invest in something that you are confident in is when people aren't talking about it and the prices. I don't know if a lot of people watching today have noticed, but we're on lows for the year here in pot stocks. And I don't think they've had an up month since February. And so a really nice spot here to get some investment going in this market. Now, what's even better than value investing is value investing with less risk. And this is where we bring in this idea that actually you are at the forefront of with your free butterflies and everything else, which is this idea of using options and using strategy to own something or own the potential for something for less money, or if things go right after, time and rolling out options and rolling them out over time, owning something for free. Right now, we have a small cannabis future that you could own on its own for under $900. But what'd be even better, Mikey, is working your break even lower and owning that thing for less. And potentially, if you stick to a strategy like we're about to highlight, owning it potentially for free at some point in the future. Have you ever done that with selling puts in a stock or buying a stock and selling calls against it and owning it for essentially zero?
I've tried my hardest to get to that zero mark, but you can get pretty close. Like the best example now, I think, is our DraftKings position we're holding the entire year. And I think we brought this up last week as well, but we've collected so much premium now that our break-even range is literally a 60-point range in DraftKings. So as long as it doesn't go to zero or multiply, we're going to be just fine by the end of the year when we close the position. But what's really nice about this product, and I think what we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides is, like you said, bringing that short premium trade component into something like this. But being long the S420 product in a margin account, you're only putting up $180 in buying power. So it's like and that's kind of the knock on other sort of pairs trades, if you will, where you're buying something like in a futures product and you're trying to sell premium against it. But this product doesn't put up, or you don't have to put up that much capital. Your notional exposure is $900, but your monetary exposure in a margin account is $200. And if you can go and start to sell premium against it to reduce the basis of that notional exposure, you're not really putting up too much buying power for each of these products, which I think is a great thing to talk about here.
And also so the idea here, if you haven't been able to infer this for yourselves, is going to be buying something, be it the small cannabis futures, the S420 futures here today, and then selling options against it to hopefully, work down. Okay, if I bought it today for $8.80, I pay essentially $880 to own about 20 pot stocks in these futures. But like Mikey said, I only have to post less than $200 to do so. If I sell a 50-cent call in a different product, we're looking to get options in smalls by the end of the year, actually coming up pretty closely here. But if I get 50 cents this month and I get 50 cents next month, 50 cents the month after, okay, that's 3 short calls of 50 cents each, $150. Now if this futures market stays the same, I own this futures market that's at $880 for $730 because of all those calls that I've been selling against it. And what's funny about this is people get so into this strategy, myself included, because it's methodical. I'm working down my break even. I'm working down my cost basis on something I want to own, which is pot stocks here. And the worst thing that could happen is if the pot stock market takes off and I get called away from my position and I don't have, which is like a funny thing, because the worst thing that could happen is if the market goes in your favor and pays you money, which is a funny kind of internal struggle. Have you ever, set up a covered call in a market, Mikey, and then been frustrated when you finally got called away from that product?
Oh, 100%. And we get emails all the time of people like, how do I defend this? Or how do I fix this? And I'm like, what do you mean you're making money? There's nothing to fix. Like, this is what it is. But you forget about the days where it wasn't going up and it was kind of floating around neutral or going down, and you're reducing your basis along the way.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about here, at least to start, because this market has obviously, like I said, I don't think it's had an up month since February here. And so to start out, we want to set ourselves up by investing in a market that shows good potential value, and then selling calls in a highly correlated market that can move my buy price lower month over month. So if we don't see an up month here in October for pot stocks, then I've moved my buy price down from $8.80 to $8.25. And then if we don't see that up month in November, Mikey, okay, well, hopefully I've moved it down now below $8. We don't see it in December. Well, hopefully I'm closer to $7.50 or $7.25. And then if that finally occurs in, January or February or March, pot stocks finally start to take off, then I see all that upside from a price that I paid that's way lower than where it is today. Now, if it takes off in October here, then I just make the upside on the trade and I walk away, which is great. Like you said, the worst case scenario is, how do I defend a market that's paying me, which unfortunately you can't do. But I'm looking here at the MJ ETF shares against the S420 futures. You can see extremely highly correlated. This is as good as it gets, but the market is a little bit larger than S420 right now, priced at around $14. S420 at a little under $9. So I'd be looking at buying 2 S420 futures, like Mikey said, under $200 in capital requirements. So all in, you're paying around, I think, $350 for the 2 S420 futures, and then selling a monthly at the money call in MJ, which I looked at earlier, is going to cost you about $200 or so in buying power to work that purchase 50 cents lower every month, which is what the at the money calls are trading around in right now. And so say that this doesn't work out for the next several months. Well, you've worked your long pot stock position, your value investment, closer and closer to $0 over time. Does that all make sense to you?
Yeah, love it.
So let's jump into the platform and actually take a look at this potential trade. You can see here, I was looking at micro Bitcoin earlier. A lot of, like we say, all the eyes are on cryptocurrencies right now, which makes it's exciting in its own right. It presents a great day trade. As you can see here, Bitcoin has moved $2,000 here today, but I'm of the mind that I don't want to get a long-term investment going in something that's already kind of shot to the moon here, or at least I'd like to diversify with a market that hasn't necessarily shot to the moon. So let's take a look at the S420 futures. I actually have them right here. And you can see, yeah, now at a price of $8.85. This is the lows. I'm going to pull up the index really quick to show everybody what this looks like with a longer term time horizon. And you can see here, yeah, right now at $8.80 in the index, this is the lowest the index has ever been. It's going to be the lowest that the continuous contract for the futures has been since the futures launched here in April, May, June of 2021. This is as low as it's been. And so a good price point to be buying a market here at $8.85. But after buying 1, 2 of these, and you could work the midpoint for a penny if you want, but everything's tight and everything's small enough that I'm just going to lift the offer here on 2 S420s. And you can see the buying power under $400 right there. Ship that off and get filled. Now we pull up MJ. And what's really nice is since I bought 2 S420s, Mikey, I own about $1,700 worth of pot stocks. And that's just 2 times the notional of the singular contract. And 100 shares on MJ, that's $1,400. So I'm long pot stocks. If pot stocks rise and they really take off, if anything, I'm actually under hedged on the call side, and I'll be making money even through my call strike. And so I was looking, as you can see, I was already looking in here today. I can sell a call in MJ at the money right here, 14 and a half, 30 days to go, and get around $40 to $50. If you want to work the midpoint in here, totally fine. I'll offer the call there for 43 cents, and we should see that populate hopefully in here. And hopefully I get filled on that call. And then the idea, Mikey, is if we stay at $8.80 or even $8.50, or we stay at $9 in the S420 futures, I'm just going to buy back this call here in November and then roll it out to the 14 call or the 15 call, whatever, in December, get an extra 30, 40 cents to do so. And every time I do that, I'm working my cost basis lower by 30 or 40 bucks. Relatively straightforward, right? Any hitches in that plan?
No, I love it. And I like the fact that, and this kind of speaks to what we were talking about before, where when you get that big rally, if it happens, if you have that straight up strict covered call scenario, you're capped out completely. But with the 2 contracts in S420, you will have that additional sort of small delta to the upside because you have more notional exposure than you would in MJ.
Yeah, it is a nice kind of under hedge, which we do sometimes in pairs trades where it's like, oh, the ratio says it's 2 to 1, but I'm going to go 1 to 1 because I want extra short deltas on whatever I'm selling on that back leg. Here, it's the opposite kind of idea where it's like, all right, a true hedge would be owning $1,400 worth of pot stocks. Well, right now I own about $1,700 to $1,800, sorry. And so I'm hedged on about 75% of that. So if pot stocks take off, then I'm just making that percentage rise on the extra $300 or $400 there as my calls are taking the other exposure. But yeah, relatively straightforward here. I like every once in a while taking a longer term view. And I actually just asked Mikey today, out of the small exchange markets, what is piquing your interest? And I think the easy one to look at would be like, oh, this SCCX, Bitcoin is flying all over the place. You've got a market here that was down big on the open and now has fought back to new contract highs in this young SCCX future. And what does Mikey say? He goes, no, I want to talk about the pot stocks, which have been just a kind of a pain for people recently who have been holding longs, but take solace in the fact, we saw this actually this year. You know what the pot stock market of 2021 was, Mikey, was the energy market. Did you trade any of this? Remember XLE and these energy stocks from like 2016 until recently were just getting pounded. And if you were long energy stocks and selling calls against it and what have you, you've seen a real nice return here in 2021. Yeah, you see, it was just basically a descent from $80 down to $70, down to $60, down to $50, and then all the way down to $30, below $30 in XLE. A really nice rise here. That's what you're hoping for in pot stocks, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think you have all the opportunity and capability in the world for these products. like we said, it is a newer type of market, not necessarily as new as the interest in something like Bitcoin or SCCX, but it has the ability to go up, from 8 to 9 to 10, whatever. We saw the ability for it to do that in February. So if we get that same move again, we'll have a nice trade.
Well, and it's what's funny is that we actually were in this exact same environment. I don't think I'm going to have enough. Oh yeah, I have enough data. But remember, in Bitcoin, we were sitting in this similar mode to pot stocks where it's like, oh, Bitcoin got up to, I think it got up to above 40,000 and then came all the way back down to like 10,000 and was just sitting around there for a while. And then now, obviously, this year, you're seeing all of the growth that people were calling for years. I don't know if we'll see pot stocks necessarily grow, tenfold like they have here in 2021, but even a growth of 10, 20, 30% should bring today's strategy into some profits. So there you go. You have it. Value investing in futures with Mikey Butler. Always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks again for showing everybody that very clean pot stock shirt here. Along with your beautiful face. It's very, very kind of you, man.
Hey, it's what I'm here to do. Just give me shirts, give me endless amounts of shirts, and I'll rep them every show.
Absolutely, man. Well, you'll see. I was talking to you, like I say, off the air about something that we might be able to get cooking relative to the crypto product. So maybe not a shirt, but we'll get you something, Mikey Butler. Always a joy to have you on. Thanks so much for joining me here on Monday's edition of Small Stakes. But people, stay online because Splash into Futures is coming up next. Another weird day in the equity market. Some equities are making all-time highs, some showing some fear. We've got a crude oil market that can't decide where it wants to go, and same for cryptocurrencies. So there will be plenty of stuff for us to trade. Thanks so much for watching Small Stakes. Stay tuned. Splash into Future coming up next.